At its core, due to design, Street Fighter V is a game of turns. In this video, we are covering punishes, taking your turn, stealing turns, preventing theft, and how to learn to take your turn. The first thing we'll cover today is common punishable moments. You can't start to take your turn or steal turns if you're not in a position to capitalize on mistakes. Some mistakes are obvious. Some are not. For new players, I would suggest focusing on a light punish, a heavy punish, and a ranged punish that always work. For Ryu, a light punish could be as simple as a standing light kick cancelled into an uppercut, and a heavy punish could be as simple as a crouching heavy punch into an uppercut. For ranged punish against crouching heavy kicks, sweeps, you can simply respond with your own sweep. You want these, at the end of the day, to be incredibly simple. A single button into a special is often all you need to convince people you're playing against to stop making these mistakes. However, after getting comfortable with those easy punishes, you can learn additional punishes to optimize damage, stun, or meter gain. I break these down into light, medium, heavy, crush counter, and neutral jump punishes based upon what I see to be common negative frames listed in the game. Light punishes are options against attacks that are -4 or worse on block. These are arguably the hardest to get consistent due to having a cancel off of a light attack. In this example from the introduction, Ken's heavy kick Tatsu is -4 on block. That leaves me enough time to get a light punish. Medium punishes start with medium attacks that are 5 to 6 frames. Most characters that have relatively reasonable normals have medium attacks or heavy attacks that start up in 5 to 6 frames. These do more damage than the light options and can often be substituted by a throw. In this example, Ken's V-Skill 1 run, when held, performs a spearing kick at the end. This attack is -6 on block, allowing me to perform a simple medium punish. Heavy punishes often start with attacks that are being used against significantly negative on block opponents. It depends on your situation between the two characters. In this instance, Ken performs a medium kick Tatsu that I block. He is -9, and I can punish with a heavy combo. Certain attacks in Street Fighter V leave your opponent in a counter-hit state if they are blocked or miss you entirely. As a rule of thumb, these attacks are any parry or any attack with limited invincibility. These allow you to hit the opponent with larger punishes using crush counters. This counter hit state allows me to hit him for additional 20% damage and gain +2 additional frame advantage on my attack, with crush counters providing even more. In this instance, Ken misses a heavy punch uppercut, and I respond with a crush counter combo of my own. Keep in mind that crush counters increase the amount of scaling of follow-up attacks, and the optimal options for some characters come from counter-hit conversion combos against an opponent in this state. The final type of punish I commit to memory is a neutral jump punish. These can be performed when Kage, Akuma, Sakura, or Ken perform an EX reversal. It has enough frame disadvantage to allow you to perform a neutral jump attack into a full combo. In this case, you get an additional 20% damage from the block reversal, an additional 20% damage for the counter hit, and none of the scaling from the crush counters. In this example, I block Ken's EXDP, neutral jump, and land on his head, performing a heavy combo. These punishes are worth learning against command grab characters as well. If you correctly read a command grab, you can neutral jump it and perform the neutral jump punish combo. If you are new to Street Fighter V, you can check opponent aggression and reassert yourself by using light attacks. Use them after your opponent is at disadvantage, or to discourage dash-up attacks, or after quick rising a throw knockdown to stop a dash-up situation. A light check is simply using a light attack to check what the opponent is doing. You don't have to cancel into a special or do anything fancy afterwards. Simply test to see if your opponent's offense is over. Though you can check every negative situation you see, keep in mind that if your opponent has a reversal, they may be mashing it behind their attack when they're at disadvantage. For the interrupt section, I focused on common situations where you can start to take your turn. If your opponent is -2 on block, which is to say at disadvantage but not punishable, you can use that as a moment to use a frame trap, a light string, or a light check. Both frame traps and light strings operate in the 3 to 5 frame startup range, which stuffs attempts at pressure afterwards. For more on frame traps and light strings, check the string-based offense video. One of the advantages to having an uppercut is that you can force your opponent to hesitate. If you used a reversal in the past, or if your opponent is traumatized from facing one too many Ryus or Kens online, you can use that to your advantage by seizing the moment. If your opponent is hesitating, baiting, or shimmying you, you can use low attacks to catch walkaways, or wake up or interrupt with light attacks to steal your turn back. Your opponent can try to maintain offense by staggering pressure. A stagger in fighting games is when your opponent will take small steps forward after each attack to reset their offensive string. In Street Fighter V, this is fake. You can interrupt with a light check or opt for a wish punish. A wish punish is a cancel into a special either during footsies or during your opponent's pressure to score a knockdown as a read. You're assuming that the hit will happen. Moments when your opponent are at advantage next to you still leave you options. You can opt for a delay tech, a delay button, or an uppercut to stop their pressure. A delay tech or button is a thrower button that has been delayed 4 to 5 frames to allow for a true frame trap to continue its business, but will catch attempts from your opponent to walk up to you. An EX reversal is a nuclear option. If your opponent always does a specific attack string, you can blow straight through it with an invincible reversal option that your character has. Sometimes opponents will opt for greedier strings to get bigger payoffs for some of their counter hits, or they'll just have a specific string that they use because it's comfortable to them. In those strings, the gap between the buttons is large enough to allow for you to interrupt them with a light check, perform a wish punish, backdash, or use a frame trap string. Finally, I mentioned fireballs at point-blank or near point-blank range because of their prevalence at low rangs. Meterless fireballs point-blank are negative on block for the entire cast except for Guile. That means that the opponent looping fireball attacks in the corner are either punishable or at disadvantage. This varies on the character, and I could write an entire other video on different types of and frame data of fireballs across the entire cast. Keep in mind, you can play the game by the numbers, but we're playing with incredibly small time windows. You can steal turns by dashing, staggering, performing spacing traps, neutral jumping, character-specific options, or just simply pressing buttons when it's not your turn. Hesitation or indecision from your opponent can let you press forward, even if you're technically not at advantage. On the flip side, if you're aware that your opponent is attempting to steal turns, you can interrupt them even if they think their pressure is flawless. Some thefts may be subtle, but it's important to lab situations to prevent your opponent from getting pressure for free. The question still remains, how do I prevent these thefts from happening? From dashing, you can use buffered normals or check their aggression with jabs or mediums, depending on what's consistent and active enough. For staggering, interrupt with light attacks or frame trap strings. For spacing traps, lab and see if you have a button that reaches them during the sizable frame gap. Backdash, the negative frame move that leads into the spacing trap. Neutral jumping, lab a neutral jump anti-air option, or walk and dash underneath the opponent to exploit trip guard. For character-specific options, you have to lab the appropriate option that interrupts their attack, or accept the block stun. Of course, am I asking you to go into the lab or look up every character in the game's frame data on block? Well, yes, but actually no. You can do that, but it's pretty dry as far as a game-playing experience goes. When it comes to learning punishes or interrupts on the fly, my suggestion is to use the ascending order of severity to check if you have an answer or not. For ascending punishes, we're starting with frame traps or light checks, going to light punishes, medium punishes, and then heavy punishes. In this example, Ryu is performing the first 2 parts of his medium punch target combo on block. I block both, and I'm unsure of how negative my opponent is. I start with a light check, then a light punish, then a medium punish, then a heavy punish. In this case, I find through careful experimentation that my opponent is vulnerable to everything except for a standing heavy kick punish. In this case, Ryu will be -9 after the first 2 parts of that target combo are blocked, which tracks with my testing. As for ascending interrupts, I start with the delayed light attacks or techs, depending on range. I move to light check or backdash, then medium check if I'm still exerting pressure. Don't tech if they're not using a tick throw button. In this example, Ryu is performing a standing medium punch, crouching medium kick. I start with the delayed light, as Ryu's standing medium punch does not tick into throw. Afterwards, I check with the light as a reversal, then a medium. In this case, I'm trading when I use crouching medium punch, so no, my opponent has a 6 frame gap. In conclusion, in this video we went over punishes, interrupts, stealing turns, preventing theft, and being able to learn your options on the fly. Keep in mind that these are options for how you can play defensively, but not the only things you can do. Lastly, as annoying as it seems, real is whatever you can get away with. Thank you again for watching, and again, I suggest joining New Challenger for free coaching and resources for several fighting games.